I just thought of another story. We're out on an operation in an area called War Zone D. It was north of our base at Benoit on the first trip. We'd set up a battalion harbour position, and the harbour position is where the whole battalion virtually forms a circle with the headquarters in the middle, and then you have the rifle companies and around the outside. And in one battalion, which I was in, they used to have mortars on the perimeter as well. And I was a machine gunner for mortars with the M60. And my gun was a perimeter gun. We set up this harbour position and scraped out what we called shell scrapes, and a gun pit, which was to be manned overnight by our section. And the section consisted of 9 men. But it was very thick jungle, and my pit was round on the left-hand end, joining up with one of the rifle companies, and there were 2 shell scrapes between mine and the gun pit where my gun was set up for picket of a night. And because the jungle was so thick, we got some nylon cord, which we used from time to time, and run the cord around from my pit around to the gun and pass the gun to the other shell scrape. So that in the night, when you went to do your turn on the gun, you grabbed hold of the cord and you could follow it round in the dark. And we just cleared it a little bit, with our feet so that you weren't crackle on sticks, etc. But the main thing was to be able to find, the gun pit. But we'd settle in and the first afternoon, and I think I could have been, have made myself a cup of coffee or something. And I saw this movement just out the front of my area. And when I say out the front, it was probably 2 or 3 yards. And I looked closely, and it was a little deer, a little reindeer. And I'd never seen anything so small. It was about the height of a rabbit, but it wasn't as long as had antlers, but not the type of antlers like you see on the big reindeers. It was like 2 horns coming up and a couple of little sort of spikes going out. But it was only very small. I'd never seen anything so small, or a reindeer so small. Anyway, I told a couple of the guys after that, what I'd seen. Oh, well, as soon as I moved, it just went, it was gone. But I told a couple of the guys, and they didn't believe me. And so I got them to come down and sit quietly there with me, but the little deer didn't come out, so I couldn't show it to them. And I just, I couldn't get anyone to believe me about it. But anyway, as from this harbour position, we were doing what was called search and destroy patrols out from the harbour position. And, we had enemy contacts, took some prisoners, and, the kills, etc. And we found rice, ammunition, these types of things. That was our job. Anyway, we'd come back into this hard position of a night. And on a couple of occasions, I saw this little deer again, but it was only when I was there on my own. I even tried to snare it to show the guys, but I couldn't catch it. Anyway, after a few days, we moved our position, like the harbour position, to another one and went on with the operation. And I think that we were probably out for about 3 weeks that time, but as I say, I never saw the deer again, and I couldn't convince any of the guys that that I'd seen it. I mean, there were plenty of animals there, like there's some very deadly snakes. There was a crate. It was a very, like a little, very small snake, but it was very deadly. And there was a king cobra. And there were even tigers. One tiger did set off a trip flare back at our base, and a guy on the gun picket triggered a claymore mine and wiped the tiger out. I saw it after it was dead. But there's also these big, I think they call them Vietnamese dragon or something, but it was like a big lizard, a real big lizard. But as far as I know, they were just like a lizard about 2 yards long. I think they got one or two up at Taronga Zoo in Sydney, but I only ever seen one over there. So we were out on that operation for about 3 weeks, and then we went back into base. And I never saw a deer again or anything, and nobody believed me, and so I just sort of forgot about it. And I mean, I came home after that was on the first trip. I came home, went back about, I think it was about 17 months later on the second trip, but that I'll talk about those on another recording. Back about 1976, 77, something like that, I had a riding school in Inverell, and this young bloke used to help me there, Peter Edwards. He's a great young bloke, and I told him the story about the little deer And one day he came over with an encyclopedia, and he had a picture of one. And when I read it, it just said that it was found mainly in Southeast Asia, where Vietnam was. So I knew I wasn't seeing things. And it wasn't until, I think, 2002, I went into a clinic at Neutral Bay. There's a lot of veterans in there, and we just talk and whatever. Before that, I'd asked a lot of the invalid blokes that had been in Vietnam and different battalions and doing different jobs over there, had they ever seen one of these little deers, and none of them had. In fact, I don't think anybody believed me. But anyway, Peter showed it to me in the encyclopedia. And I'll get back to 2002 when I was in the clinic, and I was talking to another veteran bloke there, and I'd never mentioned the deer. And I told him about the tiger. I think that's what we're talking about. And he said, well, the biggest fright I got, he said, we went out on a patrol, he said, we went into an ambush position on the side of a trail, he said, just on dark. He said, something flew out of the bush, he said, and landed fair in my chest. And he said, it frightened the life out of me. He said, and it looked like a reindeer, like a little deer. He said, it's only about as big as a rabbit. He said, it looked like a reindeer. Anyway, I told him, I said, well, I seen one too when I was over there the first time. And back in 65, 66. And I said, so anyway, he said, nobody else has seen it, nobody believed me. And I said, well, I got the same treatment. But I said, they were definitely there. And if anyone asks you, well, tell them to have a look in the encyclopedia, they'll find, that we're not making it up. I did read a little bit about it on the computer since, and I find there's quite a few little breeds of deers, but some are very rare and very rarely seen. And I'll just leave the story at that. I saw this little reindeer.